الرحيم سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين آمين.
Amen. Shukran, Imam Diallo. Bishop, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Lord God, Jehovah, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. You who create all human beings in your image and in your likeness. We say, look kindly upon your creation and have mercy upon all human beings. Grant that the Holy Spirit power will grant your creation the spirit of humility, of goodness, of mercy, of love, of patience, and of compassion. We continue to submit the witnesses that will come before the TRRC this morning. And we pray that by your graciousness you shall grant them the boldness to be able to speak the truth. And we pray also for the populace and those that are in the diaspora, the international community, to have the patience to allow the due process of the law to take its course, and to grant the commission the discerning spirit to discern between truth and falsehood. And Lord, we pray that this commission's work will be credible to all and sundry. This we ask through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much indeed, Bishop Odeko. Council, you may proceed if you're ready with this morning's witness.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, commissioners, and members of the audience. We are ready to proceed with this morning's witness. And may I, at least on this occasion, go and bring the witness. There's a matter I would want to discuss briefly with the witness. No more than 30 seconds or 1 minute.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
15 seconds would do. Yes, indeed.
Mr. Chair, the witness is on his way. He had to do the regular morning checkup for all witnesses. I guess he is fit to proceed, so he would be with us momentarily.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Council.
Ebrima Drammeh,
I, Ebrima Drammeh,
do swear that
do swear that
I'll speak the truth,
I will speak the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Mr. Drammeh. Welcome back to the TRRC. May we have interpretation in the Mandinka language? If that was going on, we did not hear it.
Isama, Mr. Drammeh, Bismillah, Kotanke, TRRC.
Of course, Mr. Drammeh, you'd be giving your testimony in the English language. Nonetheless, we would interpose interpretation in the Mandinka language for the audience at home.
Otonyale onyaonya Mr. Drammeh ibela sedan doni ibadi la ni tuabu kangola bari onyaonya be kanna soro dundla kono le puru nyin kamala lamor la menu be skol kono.
This is your second trip here, and I hope it would be the last. So you know the rules.
Ina mu ila sinya fulan jangoti jang anu jigere nyebe kele le nya labangoti pour kana jang tumala onya o kan jigere ko sarto lonne kul kata nyame.
You know it is a criminal offense under the laws of this country, and indeed under the TRRC Act, for one to provide false or misleading information or to lie on the oath.
Luwati nyalti Gambia banko kanjang tumala melna ye kali bina sedan do dila luwati nyalem ani kabi fanang o nyakil o nyawa fanang TRRC fanang koto jang ala luwal koto o mu luwati nyalti tumala melna ye kali bina sedan do si dila TRRC nyati no jang luwati nyalem andun ka kuma soto balo fanang fo fanang luwati nyalti.
And of course, for one who may be found to have committed a human rights violation, no matter how little that right violation may appear, the person would not be entitled to a recommendation for amnesty if it is believed that the person has lied to the commission.
Hanin kabi fana mola me ya lon ko jiko be je ko amari nyin ay hadamadi nyenti tinyal aya kele andum wala on hadamadi nyenti tinyal nyin fana kono ayo menke nin ay tara seneyata nara findi ko ketale o mari nyin suri rote kala e pour yamfo e kala e kafme amnesty pour alakour.
So Mr. Drammeh, you are called today to testify about one discrete issue, that is the work of the task force that was created to assist the ECOWAS UN investigation team that came to Gambia to investigate the issue of the killing of the West African migrants in 2007.
Ye kuma dalilo men kamma jang Mr. Drammeh wala nyinti ku klimi an ka men sene wala nyinti ko tax force wala kafo mel londi tan pour ka kiskisro ke nain Africa til jindala banku dimo mol mi alon ko ye fa Gambia banko kan jang ye mol men kinen jang wala ECOWAS EU aning EU multi pour kana ko nyin kiskisi.
Are you ready to provide information about that?
Silang Mr. Drammeh be pari ne bang pour ka kibaro dinya wo ko do bang.
Yes, I do.
So let's confirm your basic information again. What are your full names?
Follow nga damu da follow ila kibaro follow yewol dinna follow ito follow ito ni konton.
My name is Ebrima Drammeh.
Ntomu Ebrima Drammeh neti.
And you work currently at the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency.
Sainteng ibe dogo la na bankola dogo bunda do mel yalon ko wolle be marlin ka kelo ki nyin sira ma fengol la nyin banko kanjang.
Point of correction is the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the Gambia.
Drug Law Enforcement Agency di Gambia doku bunda me yalonko wala ka sira fewlu kele nyim banko kan.
Well, to add the Gambia would be really superfluous. I mean, it would definitely be the Gambia, but it's all right. We take it. That's the official name, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the Gambia.
The national is not Drug Law Enforcement Agency.
National TJ.
DLEAG.
Okay.
DLEAG, Drug Law Enforcement Agency.
No, not at all, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you for that. That's an important clarification. And you work there as Director of Operations.
That's correct, sir.
But prior to that, you worked at the NIA.
That's correct, sir.
Good. And what position did you hold in the NIA in 2007?
Wala si jumala be bul NIA 2007 sangokono.
I was the Director for Internal Security and Operations.
Ntelmu director mem marta tankoni kanto la banko kono anin ila dokul fanalu sambanya.
You would admit, Mr. Witness, that that would be a very important position in this country.
Sedo ebe son namale ko palaso tumala men wato ebe o palaso nying abe amaro be telebulu omu palaso kuma balde nyimbankunka.
That's very correct, sir. That's why I was called the human robot. I was working 18 hours a day.
Wo muto nyaleti wo dalilo le fawo yakendi konde mu dokula masin dokula leti katun kamontoro wati tang anin say dokula tilokono.
Well, you have the build for it. So you're robust and sturdy. I am sure that you have really stood the test. But also, that made you the repository of basically the national secrets.
I don't
know whether that's the correct interpretation, but I am saying that that would make you one of the most informed persons in Gambian society about national secrets.
That's correct. Directly or indirectly, conscious or unconsciously, within or unwittingly, sir.
Akata nyonya ni nyama ebuta kalama mumbu kalama akita lanya karawo karati andun akita nyawo ndi nyama fana umuto nyalti.
That is quite an interesting formulation. I am sure Dr. Sise would write that and frame it and put it somewhere as part of the TRRC archives.
And I explain why I said so.
Please go ahead.
Why I said conscious or unconsciously, within or unwittingly. This was an institution.
Akoniaje ngafo alankene mata man lankene wala kalamutata man kalamuta bari mudo ku dinkiraleti nun.
Whereas my capacity then as Director of Internal Security and Operations.
Demen hanu yalo ntela makamu mentinu director memmarta kubanko kono kunya la anin do ku bunda nyin ikayla do ko tamandi nyamin ay fanna lesoto men yalonko fanna wala bunda o bunda ya fansun kule soto tele marta men.
Mr. Witness, we have had this issue of need-to-know basis, compartmentalization at the NIA. We have heard about it several times. Sometimes it is just used as a cover for plausible deniability.
That
a number of people were in fact the repository.
Kulolong melu nyanta italie abmen foko mambo ko men kala mo katara itelle fomu
out happens in this country should come to your desk. You are the head of internal security. You cannot be compartmentalized out of that information because you
na kana long woto palaso la me ya lon ko banko kono tankada kunya bewole to anim fanan etele marta do ko lu sambo kenyala woto kukuma nanata atetela dinkira karno la tela tabulo karno la nyatu modulu.
Mr. Witness, are you suggesting? Because who would compartmentalize you out of information?
Sayin selo wayri yolo fo sayin jumala be sotola membe ite da bondi la kibaro luto menketa kibar kumati menketa bankola koti.
According to the hierarchy at the time,
amunta na nyatonka palaso lubelari nu nyame utumo,
I was answerable to the Deputy Director General,
ntekandanku Director General Nolankolela,
who in turns was answerable to the Director General.
Me yalonko fananke danku Director General Faulela.
Or sometimes you report directly to the Director General.
Wato dobeje ike danku Director General Fangola warra mo bugata inatem.
On rare occasion, if the assignment is directly from the Director General to me,
wokake bara bukasia bara fanan katara kibaro nyin wala yamaro wala doko sasiro bota Director General Fangolea ka futandin tekuma.
You see, let's cut to the chase, Mr. Witness. What I'm trying to drive at is you cannot compartmentalize out the head of the department that is responsible for the collection of the very intelligence that the Director General would need. You can't compartmentalize you out.
Bondi no la kol nyin kono me alon ko bo bunda nya tele marto kibaro la pour ka kibaro ka funyoma pour Director General yo general ye ite fam bondi no la kol kono.
I agree, but there are instances when certain operations do take place and I'm not aware of.
Mambalangola tonya bari tumo do kolu dolu ka sotole melu kake men yalon ko nde fango bukani bolu kalama.
That is obvious. That is obvious. But for operations carried out by your department, by your elements, you obviously would be aware of.
Very correct.
Exactly. And everything that was internal security was under you. So all internal security operations would fall on your lap.
Correct, sir.
Exactly. And it therefore means an internal security covered every intelligence matter within this country, isn't it?
That's correct, sir.
Therefore, it was right when I said that as Director of Internal Security and Operations, you are in fact the repository of the secrets that were going on or that happened in this country.
That's correct.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baraba. So during this time, you were a member of a panel, a task force rather, that was set up to assist a fact-finding mission.
Very correct, sir.
Could you tell us about the work of that task force? The members in the first place, who are the members?
It was one fateful day. My very self and Aziz Hydra were summoned to report to the Ministry of Interior. By the Director General at the time.
Director General membeje wotumo wala kango sindimma.
Mr. Lamin Bobaji.
Kafaye Mr. Lamin Bobaji.
Then the ministry was housed where the current immigration headquarters is.
Wotumo minister bunda be dinkira mento immigration la office be dinkira le toton sai mbe nyi jamano mento ten.
When we arrived at the ministry,
minister bunda nyina.
We were ushered into the office of the then minister.
Yen samba yen dundi minister la office kono wotumo membe minister yala.
Mr. Usman Sonko.
Kafole wotumo Usman Sonko.
Present was the then Inspector General of Police at the time.
Tembo memu police ol fanan la kunton kote Inspector General o fanan bije
Esa Baji.
Kafai Esa Baji.
And I found some other security members from various outfits.
Andung na kanto nintankada bunda la dokula dolu fanalu taraje menu bota bunda kotangolula.
Let's get the name of all those in attendance.
My very self, shall we start with the minister, please? Minister Usman Sonko.
In what order? In whatever order you choose.
So,
Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister Usman Sonko.
Yes.
The Director General, then NIA Lamin Bobaji.
Director General Memmarta NIA la wutumo Lamin Bobaji afanambe obengoto.
Inspector General of Police, Esa Baji, at the time.
Tembo Esa Baji lom Inspector General de Police la kuntonko afanambe bengoto.
My humble self, Ebrima Drammeh.
Nindefongo kundimo Ebrima Drammeh mfanamma beta obengoto le.
Then CMC of the Gambia Police Force.
Wotumo memu CMC ti Gambia Police Bundala.
Currently Minister Interior.
Sai wole Minister ti memmarta banko kan kunyalla.
Mr. Yankuba Sonko.
Kafai Mr. Yankuba Sonko.
You have Mr. Malamin Sise.
Memfana mabeta je kafai Mr. Malamin Sise.
The late Numo Kujabi.
Kala Numo Kujabi.
The late Mfali Jabang.
Kala Mfali Jabang.
Mr. Aziz Hydra of the NIA.
Mr. Aziz Hydra, NIA Dokula.
Fali Jabang was Army, correct?
Yes, from the Presidential Guard, Military Intelligence.
Mfali Jaba tebe sojaro la Carola, Presidential Guards la Military
State Guard rather.
State Guards la Carola. Niamo Military Intelligence ole sojaro la kullo kisikisi bunda.
Okay. Malamin Sise, Police.
Gambia Police Force.
Malamin Sise wala bota Gambia Police Force.
Of course, Yankuba Sonko, GPF.
Yankuba Sonko fana GPF.
Ebrima Drammeh, NIA.
Ate Ebrima Drammeh from NIA. Sai ko etente.
Numo Kujabi.
Police
at the time.
Numo Kujabi utembo ube police.
There was this member that was part of the task force. I cannot remember right now as to whether she was in that meeting, but she was a member of the task force.
Fo amabeta wo bengotole bang fama mabe bari atefanamu moleti men tombo ka dundi wo kafo kono yentel men sasi.
What's the name of the person?
Currently Justice Hawajalo.
Ka fole mintembe Justice Hawajalo.
You mean Hawaba?
Hawaba rather, sorry.
Hawaba, Justice Hawaba.
But it is prudent to note that
bari akumaya purke hakilo tunyimtoko.
Justice, however, did not attend any of the meetings that we conducted.
Justice Awaba amama be hani ben Clinton teleo bengulu melbeke otembo.
The meetings were surreptitiously held.
Bengulu nyilu ye Kenya min ye ke bulandi nyonoma bari ye ke kuleti menyalonko bukadolu bonda kalama menu datije.
Why did you use that word, surreptitious?
Council, I came here for a purpose.
Council
Yes.
And I've just taught the Quran and I swear to speak the truth.
And
I know that I am going to be judged.
Ndungalon ko be fanan konti bola nyinnale.
In the hereafter.
Lakira.
I am not here to please any, I'm just here to speak the truth between me and Allah.
Manna mo se wondi jang nata jang pour que toñale fo ning mario tema.
No meetings, none of our meetings were held during any official times.
Nte labbe ngolu dum bukake wati la wato memu do ko watoti.
Proceed.
At when that task force was being constituted, it was decided there, let it be housed at the NIA headquarters. Myself and my Director General at the time, we raised concern. Hence, all the information with regards this particular issue is with the Gambia police force at the time. So it's better we let it be housed at the Gambia police force headquarters. After some pull and push, we finally agreed that it should be held at the police headquarters. We have never had any meeting during official working time. That I am aware of.
Why do you think that was the case?
Because of the secrecy and the concerns that surround that particular issue. And our mandate, as per the instruction of the Honorable Minister at the time, was not to investigate. We were not chosen in order to investigate. Because there had been some preliminary or initial investigation conducted. By other task force that were constituted earlier on. Notwithstanding, our mission was there will be a UN ECOWAS fact-finding mission kafubinga la jang meni alonko dolube bola ECOWAS dolube bola UN ibinga la kisi role la jang kana tonya nyini wala. That fact-finding mission will visit the Gambia. Wotonya nyini na kafo lubina Gambia kumpabola. And they must have a focal point or focal persons that they will deal with. It was as a result of that that we will be that front line that will be dealing with that UN ECOWAS mission if whenever they arrive into the country. Purunyin kamala wairi wolu nyanta nyatili nya molu soton na janne ntelle na take wo moluti wo ECOWAS ani UN la wo alifalu ni na tajay ni ntelle be nyatili na nyola.
But that is basic work, isn't it? That is just basic. That's normal, isn't it?
Yes.
Why was it necessary for there to be any secrecy?
For me, I don't know, but again, I think they did not want the entire general public to know and then probably giving out information that wasn't necessary. Maybe.
Ntela miroto na mirako womukuleti meya lonko iman lafi puru jama mboli yana nyinko kala muta ko membela ulbina menna jang puru ning akibaro janjanta jama molu kono isaje kuma mesengulu si wuli karanin karala ngalo ibe balandi ngolela nu wolana iko ngaka kulloti.
This was to investigate the killing or the mysterious death of at least 8 West African migrants.
Imu kisikisiri la ne mello ni puruka kisikisiri ke kula me alon ko mo faro la me alon ko wala keta mo sey la me alon ko Africa dingol lam.
That's very correct, sir.
And when this event happened, the government promised to make some thorough investigations into the issue, correct?
This is what I saw on papers and other media outlets.
I mean, with that, the government should be interested to receive information from the public or from anywhere that would help the investigation.
Wakang masakunda anyana kele bulu sulul tinu puruke bunda yela mole me alon ko abe bola jamale bulu ka kibaro soro mol bulu akunyinto purukis kisiro so ayet sona yano.
Correct?
Most probably, sir.
Asikeno wala nyama.
And if an international outfit is to come to the country to investigate the issue, the government should be interested, if it wants to be transparent, in providing all the information that is available, and also not to block the public from providing any additional information that may be helpful.
Bantala kafulu wulta jilafta nala kisikisiro la jang nga mira mansa kunda fana nyanna kila bunda doku molle de me alonko anyanne sula la pour que bunda yela moli wayena anin jamara hamano fana isaje ko isikiwaro sorno mol bula ko kisiro nyin ay sona ya fonde.
Council, I agree with you, but again, I would like us to look into what we were personally told.
Council, unsonte la kumola. Bari mbela fila fanang. Makoju be kuokono, me ya lonko ye nteli ya mari wale nyala kunyanta akela nyami.
We will come to that.
In
fact, if the government was interested in getting real evidence, it would make a call to the public for anyone with information to come forward and help and provide that information to assist the investigations, wouldn't it?
Masakunda ngadra esula numpuka kibaro soda akuonyendo debe kumandro kila jamaa elenu kabunda ela mole ngadra momo kibaro soda akuonyendo isinana findina yadi mansala fond.
As the first step for every investigation, that is correct, sir.
Kisikisiri wale nyanta kila asimfa foloti kwa ya fanyamin ito nyala.
But on this particular occasion, it looked like things were done surreptitiously, like you suggested. They were trying to hide the fact of these investigations or the work of this group. Isn't it?
I don't know about the first investigations or other panels done.
No, I'm talking about your own task.
Our own. There were areas that actually will impinge into the fact-finding mission getting to meet public. Member of the public.
Ntelo sasiro kono. Kodo lubije ninga ulutamandi woto na kisikiziro bina futala jamaa molu male. Purunyin kamala ninjama moli nyomo ikakulu tamandi me yalon ko fanambetar la kisikiziro nyin ko konale.
You were tasked on paper, correct?
Yal sasle kaitoro.
You were given your terms of reference on paper.
Ya kol be safa la do ko nyin tamandi nyala be kala nyame ya be safa le kaitoro balal fond.
Wasn't that the case?
We had an oral briefing and there were no paperwork.
Ntelum mbekachala tumo nga kacha dalela kumakango kalimo bari kaiti manda dajede.
Tell us truthfully what you were told was your mandate.
The mandate given to us that the fact-finding team will pose questions to the Gambia government. And our task force is being tasked to give answers to those questions posed. And our answers
has to be in collaboration with with government institutions, the relevant institutions.
Wo jabirolu be nyanta kala nyale manyame ya lonko do ku bunda memmarata o kola men kata nyinin karo dal hiloti ni wolle be katar la kankling pour ka ko lu jabi.
And they would be visiting places.
And we bitadin kiralu fanan kumpa bolale.
And we will be taking them to those places.
Adun telle nyante sambala odin kiralu fanalto.
And they will request to interview some people.
And we
should ensure we make available those people.
And
this was the instruction given to us. But we were never told that we will investigate anything, no. We were serving as an arbiter, sort of.
Go
between that team and the Gambia government. Were you to be honest brokers or some partisan players? Council, before I answer that, can I give you a very short story?
Council,
wars are fought. Soldiers go to war between countries and country. But I'm sure all these soldiers are told that it is right that we go and fight this war. But instinctively, we know one party is at right and another party is at wrong. And those soldiers fighting the war thinks they are fighting a right war. So to cut that story short, for us it was country force. That's what we were seeing at the time. And we are told of only 8 Ghanaians whose bodies were found at Ghana town. And that is what this whole entire mission was centered about. Mr. Witness,
sir,
your narration of the briefing and instructions you received.
Yes,
let me change this. How long did your meeting last?
Well, it's less than an hour.
55 minutes? 45 minutes?
So I don't want to lie to you, but I know it was less than 1 hour. And can I be frank with you?
I
want you to be your frankest.
I have never been scared or afraid until that day. Why? In my capacity then as Director of Internal Security and Operation, I have come across so many information with regards to this issue. And I now found myself looking at that issue now.
So now you see the reason why I asked those questions at the outset. You had the information that not 8 Ghanaians were killed. A lot of West African migrants were killed. True or false?
No, I did not know up to that time that 51 Ghanaian or foreign nationals were killed. I would justify that.
The question is not whether 51 were killed. The question is that at the time you knew that more than 8 were killed.
No, that time I didn't know.
Okay. All right. But you knew that at least some 50-something West Africans came into the country.
Very correct.
And you knew, apart from the 8 that were confirmed killed, the rest have not been accounted for.
Very true.
And you also knew that the government was jittery about any questions pertaining to the rest of the group.
Council, sincerely, I do not want to talk for government. I don't want to talk for government on that issue. Why? This incident in question, the time it was happening, I was not in town.
But it doesn't really matter where you are. The important thing here, Mr. Witness, is by the time you were made a member of this task force, you knew that something much bigger,
very true indeed, Council,
was presented on the table.
Rumors were rife, Council. Let me help you. Rumors were very rife. You see,
bari council kayen ko hani ibijang itijang wotembo mankumaya bari ibota kukilin kalama ko ni mukuleti me yalon ko tele kay yiriko memfo atambita walale sedo kay ha bari butung mbatu nge makoy.
He said rumors were rife.
Very rife indeed.
What were the rumors?
The rumors was that there's people that have disappeared and the government has hands in it.
And disappeared equals killed.
Most likely. The training that
disappeared equaled killed. It's not disappeared most likely equals killed. No.
Most likely.
No. No.
Equally.
Yes. It equaled killed.
If that suits you, sir, I agree.
And the thing is, the NIA had its ears on those rumors. Isn't that the case?
Of course.
And you would have done your credibility analysis to assess the reliability of that information. Correct?
Council. Let me help you. There is a topic in the intelligence trade craft called rumors. Anytime rumors arrived, there is at least 60 to 70% truth in those rumors. When other efforts are employed, that is when you come to authenticate that rumors. But this rumor at the time was touching on the person you have to report to. So, I don't know where you sent those kind of reports.
But at least you came to realize that this issue pertains to the person that you were supposed to report.
Can you repeat that question again, please?
Could you repeat your earlier answer?
Haven't got that kind of information or rumors. Up till now, it is not yet intelligence. Personally, I will not report that to those concerned.
No. Your earlier answer was, well, you have this information
yenyin kibaro soto
and it relates to the person to whom you are supposed to report.
nin kibaro yin men soto mole ma me yalon ko inyan ke
That's the recipient.
Yes, so you would not report to the person about
Even if I'm sick, I will not do so, sir.
Exactly.
Very true, sir.
And hence the point that I raised, all right? And the fact of the matter, these rife rumors had some element of truth in them. And that truth is the person you're supposed to report to is actually involved in the disappearance of these people.
Very correct. Very correct.
So, at the point you were sitting at this task force, were you told to genuinely help these investigators? Or were you told to create a smoke screen aimed at misleading or misdirecting the investigators? And tell us honestly.
Me ya lonko wo bekela danko doron quality pour ñin kisikisir lalu alsi filindino nyamin satara aliye ko ke danko doron pour ite lakko kamma ite nya saje ko sa mera ko albe do ko lay na tamen
Council, during the course of that meeting, we were not told anything of such. But there was this briefing we had at the NIA headquarters at one fateful day. When certain question arrived that was posed by this fact-finding mission. With regard to a gentleman dressed in a very funny way,
me ya lonko aketa mole la kuti me ye fem façon nudum me ya lonko aketa sola kuleta fem lu menudum.
And what was
that was alleged to be at the terminal holding a machete,
and we are foko fongo tatale hanfo kulungul la sembe dulato adungotumo muruba babulo kono dol ka fa e fango
wearing a very big trouser which we call in our local language chaya
ko wotumo ay daba kurti bale dung membe dundingala
and juju ties all over the body
and don diko membe dendingala wo fanan safewul ning fengulu bebe karari ngabala,
which was a real depiction of that the Jola regalia of dancing, what we call the Butu Sabala, you know?
Yo, wodum fenneti me yalonko na ado to badin Jola lu nibe nyinjanjungulu kalaila ada bengulu idalta fem façon le dunna kaye Jola kaw men fote ka commande nyamin
interpreter dem Jola barindingolti ha
ba yo Jola ba
sa fo Jola kay ba fo la kuke
awanin ko len na badin Jola
good. So and they said it was a young looking person,
and
at that time all that description fits somebody.
And it
happens to be Colonel Council Kamara, ex-Colonel Council Kamara at the time, Bombardé.
And we
decided in that meeting and we were told Gambian soldiers don't dress like that. And that does not exist. It is non-existential. We have to deny that.
Who told you that?
All those of us who were in the meeting. In that meeting, we had two superior officers. That's the DG, the IG.
DGT and IG.
But again, Every move of ours was being coordinated and reported to the minister.
Mteliye simfa o simfata kalimo anin kokundi ngake ikabe kibaro di minister lele fanang.
Let me ask you this. When you were being told that to say that Gambian soldiers don't dress like that, was it known to the officers that in fact that information that is now being challenged, in fact, reflects exactly what happened at the Marine unit, and that the information referred to Bombardier?
That was in the affirmative. We all agree, we all knew that was it.
So in fact, you're telling this commission that at that time all of you knew that the West African migrants were all added at the Marine unit at some point.
Well, that was not the issue. We were not aware of that. This question was directed to that individual as alleged by Martin Carey.
Council, but Mr. Witness, just a moment. But Martin Carey's allegations should not be compartmentalized.
But Martin Carey
the description of Bombardier should not be looked at in isolation from other facts.
Bombardier ya kalam fo nyama e paresifal menke o manyanna ka bondi kono iko ya fo nyamen
Martin Carey suggested that they were arrested in Bara and taken to the port, where all of them were kept together and tied.
Martin Carey men vole mindi ko yemuta barale nati banjul pobe badala je ye kafunyo kanje ye sitije.
And there
andun
you had Bombardier dressed in the regalia and carrying a machete.
Bombardier na je ayo dum fensifal dun chaya anin don di ko me anan ko safol babal anin nyim fangola.
Wasn't that his allegations?
Fola mankala tumir kuma kanwote.
That wasn't. If my memory serves me well, that there was this gentleman that met them. That's what the question. Whether we know of that gentleman. But they did not talk of the group.
But Mr. Witness, Gambia government's position was that these West Africans did not set foot in Gambia.
That is what the Gambia government said, true.
But the Gambia government knew that, well, these people were received, were arrested in Bara and taken to the Marine unit, and there was Bombardier on that day dressed in this funny way that this Ghanaian described.
Munta Gambia masakunda membenu njambari yalo na kwa sene atema ko nyimulu ye muta barale ye sotu ye nati nang ye banjul badala mafang badala andu nyungu to jeto Bombardier na reje anu ko ya fo nyame anyu dum fensifal mendum ay o dis fensifal lelum.
Isn't that the truth?
Fo wala mage to nyati.
Council,
just answer that question.
Council, I don't want to speak for the Gambia government.
Well, you have no choice.
No, I will speak for the task force.
No, you have no choice in this matter. Because the government had spoken and you knew what the government said. So you could tell us what the government said. I have the report here.
I think if my memory serves me well, I think the government was blatantly denying that 51 national or more than that had stepped foot in the Gambia. That was government's position. Which you and I and everybody knew that was what the Gambia government was holding on.
Andu otembo nyanjanta mo jama yalo Gambia man sakundala la momenti nu.
And related to that point, that there were 50-something who were arrested in Bara and taken to the Marine unit, is the fact that Bombardier, this person dressed in this funny manner, was at the Marine unit and started brutalizing the detained migrants while they were there. So that is why the government is denying the existence of this person who was dressed in
very correct, sir. Yemen foten sa wala mutonyati. Katu yenyine foko yenyimolu mutana mbarale ye natin na bako no sojaro la kordato banjul jangi kafuda me marine unit. Adum je nyimario men ikaye nyim kurtibalu nyi safe don dikolu dum ya mario ye tarajele aya damu takanyimolu tajireya kabringo dinkirato je man sakunda be balandi no jelela.
So the reason the government was denying this incident with Bombardier is simply because they did not want to confirm the story that 50 plus were taken to the Marine unit.
Dalilo me asa masakunda me binu nyebe balankan nu nyinkola ka foko Bombardier la ko lanya ya fo nyame.
Council, I solely agree with you, but if I let me explain something to you. Council, sincerely,
yes, proceed.
Sincerely, between me and God, I would not have believed that 51 people would have killed if Oya and others did not come here and make those revelations. This is unspeakable. You just cannot imagine. These were facts that were hidden from us as a task force. Ning ayatara ko oya aning anyu adonyo kotewlu manna nun jang ka tonya yandi ntela la nun but womu kuleti kamem mabon tele task force molu manu.
I would agree that all the details may have been hidden from members of the task force.
Be sonna nyimmala ko asike no kul nyimbe tamandiri nya ilata nyameng e nyinkafo e melondi abe
but it was obvious that the members of the task force knew that the government was lying about what has happened.
I will not call it as new. I will say there was the suspicion. Let me learn, my counsel. A matter that has not been authenticated. You just cannot imagine that 51 plus people arrested with no arms, no ammunition, and brutally murdered, killed like that. No investigation done. No court, nobody taken to court. So what was the yardstick that was used to kill those people? Frankly, between me and Allah, there was suspicion. But that it will arrive to that. Well, then was just like a toad.
Maybe there was more than suspicion. Let's say there was constructive knowledge that these people were killed. Remember, disappearance equaled killed.
If I am to be frank with you, at that material point in time, my suspicion was on the 8 Ghanaians killed. Haven't received information in the manner in which they were found. For the other remaining one,
witness,
okay.
You will recall that the NIA in fact participated in the operation.
Not to my knowledge. Why I said during their presence or their emergence into this country, If I suppose that was in 2005.
Na mira ketan in 2005.
I was not in town. I was conducting training somewhere else.
Mbe karandiro la nun dinkira dole to.
I don't dispute that. I have no reason to. I am telling you that these people were received by the NIA.
That's correct.
And brought to Banjul.
I learned about this, frankly, between me and God, during the testimony of Usman Jallo, and also that of Jibril Seka, Jibril Ngul Seka.
At this time, 2007, where was Jibril Ngul Seka?
Oh, what was Jibril Ngul Seka?
2007, I think Jibril, I don't want to guess, but he was embroiled into some problems here and there.
Yeah. But where was Usman Jallo?
Was at the NIA at the time.
In which unit?
I think the investigation unit.
Investigations, wasn't it under operations at that time?
Very well indeed.
So in fact, the repository of the information worked under you.
During my tenure, there was nothing of a Ghanaian issue raised at the investigation part. This was sometime in 2005. Then I was in Director of Internal Security and Operations.
My point is,
go ahead, sir,
that the person who actually received the Ghanaians, see, worked under you at that time. You were a member of the task force. And let me tell you something else. The NIA maintained a big file on this particular issue. Every government correspondence on this issue was kept at the NIA. And I have this report here, and let me read out something from it. Mr. Chair, I'm referring to Exhibit 206A. This is the investigation report of 2005. And the task force said this. Page 17, paragraph 15.
Lera tani worowula sapatani lulu.
He says that. No, let me start from paragraph 14. Investigations revealed serious inconsistency as the number of people alleged to have been part of the group. This is manifested in the statements of both Martin Carey and persons detained at police stations.
Amonta ko nyinata findiko kuma kangolu manke kilinti menu findita kabon na kanto bunda la molu anim Martin Carey fo fanana kuma kangolu ay menu fo wali ay tandile ko fatam fanso be kuma kangolu nyiltole.
Right? And they went on to say in paragraph 14, the critical analysis of the statement of Martin Carey revealed serious inconsistency, as in the statement where he claimed the number was 56.
Andu fatam fanso findita kuma kangolu tole mem fota karafulo bela anim Martin Carey fon la kuma kangolu dame yalon ko wala mnyintiko mo tallulu anim woro ila foro to koyol lemuta.
Paragraph 15.
The
investigations consider Mr. Carey's claim, particularly in his reference to the military man dressed in bizarre manner and wearing a traditional cap, as an imaginary thought or illusion. Every sane or objective person would see as fabrication.
itella kuma kan kata menti wala nyinti matin keriye kuma kan memfo men sujita mola kola me yo daba kurti ba dunga ni o safe dondi ko itella mutala ko mukuleti me ya lonko a fangola miraro le moti wala ala sondo mo kono ate fangolo kumo fo a fayye o mukuleti me ya lonko iko itella karole ko manka ku soto muti matin keri la kuma kan mo fatam fansi doleti.
It is prudent to note that the Gambian government managed a well-disciplined security force where improper dress is not tolerated.
Adu fana mukulori neko Gambia la kanto nin tankada service do kulalu hani la uniform wala parenya aya abbe atembeta la aya sabu hani momondi parenya ke menni sartolu manta bukaso wotala.
To say that a military man was wearing a traditional cap with cow horns on them is unfounded.
Kafoko sojaro sodondale meye dondi ko dum safe olube membala umukuleti meya lonko umukusuto balolti la foroto.
Paragraph 16.
Sapatani woron jangoto.
Although the discovery of the 8 African bodies at Burfoot was almost the same period with the arrival of group of people who anchored with a canoe in Banjul, there is no evidence that the bodies discovered were part of the said group.
Adunyin tembo yo fure sawolu menu tombo Burfoot. Ateo tembe da kilunga nini kulu manjam fanyola wato meng. Kulungo sotonta memu barati. Me yalon ko anata fo bara ay molu jindije. Al abena take wati kilungo leti manjam fanyola. Wonata ke daliloti me yalon ko ay kolu katandinyola bakela keta tembo meng.
Paragraph 17. The panel considers Martin Carey's claim in that people were taken to Coloban's police was unfounded. Coloban did not exist in the Gambia. However, the panel is aware of a certain Coloban, which is an area in Dakar, Senegal.
Adu na tafnyim fanam foko ko Martin Carey la kumo ko nyim foko ye molu menu mutawnya ye samba dinkirato e ka fudami ye Koloban e bari wona ta lo nyin ko Gambia dinkirati jang e ka fudami ye Koloban ite lamira ro nyin to wolem dinkirati Koloban be damen to be Dakar Senegal be.
Obviously this is very misleading. The person was referring to Kairaba station and just simply mispronounced it, and they wrote it as Coloban and want to link it to Coloban in Senegal. This is deliberate obfuscation.
Nyimu filindir kuma baleti meya safewo konyin aya tilindi Kairaba police station olela yo bari vitella saferoto ngalom filole ketaje man Kairaba safe itata Coloban safe je wala na wol fanali ya mutawonya.
Paragraph 18.
The
panel, upon critical scrutiny of Martin Carey's statement, doubt as to whether he could walk from Banjul to Bunkiling in the Casamas. He never said he walked from Banjul to Bunkiling. He said he walked from the forest where they were being killed to Bunkiling. Another deliberate obfuscation of the facts.
Anim Martin Carey la kumoko kafoko atamata simulla kata hanfo kabo Gambia jam fo Bunkiling wo fo fanana take kuti telem menso so kote kenola adum Martin mo fa kole drong moto yetil samba fo bulo kono dami lefte fala dami atakana ta wolto bituna law kano kono le matata finti Bunkiling e itella foro ina tawle so kafoko mukuleti mem fanante kenola.
You see, from 2005, the government was on a deliberate path to lie to the international community about what has happened through this report.
Kabo 2005, na mansa kunda be silo le kanu me ya lonko ya wuli nyine kama ka filindiroke ka fania bafo mem man soto ko me ya lonko le be dendi nyi molla kola ko nyin kibaru li afindi ndi nyame ngabe nyin kayto bala nyami.
You agree?
Isonda.
Council.
This report was put in 2005, from what you are reading.
Nyin kibaru buntu 2005 ikamen karanteng.
I have never set eyes on this report.
Like I told you all around,
2005,
when this incident happened, I wasn't around.
So let me learn, but that is not the point. The point I'm trying to make here is...
Yes, sir.
In 2007, when you were told that you should say that that person who was dressed in bizarre manner Gambian officers don't dress in that particular way. You all knew that that information referred to Bombardier.
Was it 2007 or 2008?
2007.
2007.
Yes.
We all lied there.
You all lied.
Yes, we all lied.
Consulia memfa wala nyindiko. Ye kibaro memfindi me alon ko wala denta womo la meyo daba kurtibani o safe dondiko dum. Atel men be panelo task force ko na lialo na ko bombarder la kolon. Bari akona atake kumati yemen soso. Bari kan sedo fana nyum foko. Ha mbeye fani yale fojede.
But the thing is, that lie did not just come up that day. That lie started in 2005. You may not have known, but that lie started in 2005, November 2005. This report shows that lie was still being made in 2005. So in 2007, your task force was set up to continue that same lie.
Bari nyim fani ya nyi amanke nyi 2007 fengere kabri 2005 le madam mutata amunta kabri ya to la kafo nyi lo me mal tax force di al tentental don ka wot kuli ya nyi ka tentendi.
I am not disputing that.
Ma so.
Precisely. I'm happy with that answer. All right? And when you gave that answer, you all knew that Bombardier was dressed in this particular manner, wielding a machete at the Marine Unit headquarters, correct?
And in Vincifal Dune, Fango Babulu, Atata, Sojarola, Bacordaro.
Council.
Just answer that point directly.
That was our suspicion. That was the entire suspicion of the entire panel members.
No, that was not a suspicion. That was knowledge. You cannot all immediately suspect Bombardier.
Remember, there was a person among us whose name is there in the first panel, also in our panel, two of them. You have Malamin Sise, you have Fali Jabang, who were all in the panel, previous panel. And then when they resulted calling those names, that was Jabba who said, I think they are talking about Bombardier. We all knew he was fond of that during national celebrations. He will always join my uncle's group. They are doing this butusabo. How do we call it? When they are, trying to stab themselves with knives, cutlasses here and there. But there was no mistake in those things.
But that information did not exist in a vacuum. It existed in a particular context. It existed in a particular set of facts, particular circumstances.
Agreed. Let's proceed.
Okay. And those circumstances were that these people were arrested and brought to the Marine unit, and there came Bombardier wielding a machete and started brutalizing these people there. From there, they were taken to be killed, according to the story of Martin Carey.
I want you to believe in one thing. Taking cognizance of the fact that that fact finding was centered with the 8 cups found around Brufut, Ghana town. I, Ebrima Drammeh, at that particular point in time, I have not received any information, nor was I aware there are 51 people or more gathered at that base.
I disagree with you partly, Mr. Witness. The Gambia government wanted to make the investigations only about 8 dead bodies.
And
would fight of anything that would suggest that it's more than 8. That's what you guys were tasked to do. Whereas the international community were interested in about 56 people.
Let me come in there. That fact-finding mission was not about 50-something. It was centered towards the 8 cups that we have found, which were later ascertained that they were found here in the Gambia, buried here in the Gambia, and later on exhumed. But
Mr. Witness, I think that you're probably missing something. Soon after the event, the current president of Ghana, then Foreign Affairs Minister, made a statement that some over 50 West African migrants, including about 44 Ghanaians, came to Gambia and 8 dead bodies have been found. I had that exactly. So the issue was not about just 8 dead bodies. The issue was about 56 West Africans. Your task force was to help limit the investigations to just that 8. Isn't that the case?
That was the case, and that is where all the questions posed were being asked.
The point I'm trying to make is that your task force was made to lie about other things so that the focus would be limited to just that 8.
At that time, I will not call it we are made to lie. Why? There was no cohesive information that was made available to us. About 51 or more people being killed in this country. But that is not the case. And I will suggest
that is not the case, Mr. Witness. We had Lamin Sise. He testified here. And he said this report is false.
I'm not disputing that.
Exactly.
Taking cognizance of the outcomes of the revelations. You see, Council, there's one tenet I work on most of the time. One of the principles is, first of all, is the last to know. Secrecy breeds suspicion, which breeds more secrecy. I want to make it, excuse me, sir, I want you to believe one thing. There was not any one point in time that we were made to understand. Oh, we are told that 51 people were killed in this country. For me personally, and I want to beg you to believe that. Most of this information came to light during the revelation of the TRRC. Though there were suspicions.
Mr. Witness, the issue here is not about how many people were killed. and whether you knew that that number of people were killed. The issue is that the government lied in a report, and your task force was created to maintain that lie and to misdirect the investigations by the international community.
So I think I've answered that long time.
What is your position?
The way the event unfolds, it is as white as a white sheet of paper. That's the truth. And I beg you, let us not labor on that.
No, and the other point that I am going to make is that members of the task force knew that their existence was to not help the investigations, but rather to mislead the investigations by helping cement the government cover-up.
Tax force on ala londo nyinga manke nyindiko ye londe nyindika puruka kiskisirla nyinki dema ala ye londi menka wala nyindika kiskisirla nyinki filindi anunka masakunda nyimfana dema ka ko nyinta ka mabo.
At that point in time I would say no. We were made to focus and believe about the 8 corpses found in Brufut. All the rest we are all...
But Mr. Witness, that cannot be the case. Because you have this report, which predates your task force, which is all a lie. But let's confront things head on. Your task force was told in no uncertain terms that they had to be careful, correct?
Repeat that again, sir.
You were told in no uncertain terms by the minister that you had to be careful.
Of course, we were all cautioned. We were all cautioned.
You were asked to be careful not to provide any information that would not be helpful to the government.
There were no such directives, but you can read in between the line that that was the notion.
Could you put
it in your own words? I wasn't there.
You have to be careful all that you say. That you are not sure of. That will implicate the government tomorrow.
Were you at liberty to say something that you were sure of, but which would also implicate the government?
Council, between me and Allah, I said it earlier on, and I'm going to repeat it again. I have never been afraid in my entire life to conduct any operations, any security operations this time around. If I had it my own way, I would have pulled out. Let me come, sir. Let me learn, sir.
All right.
One of the reasons that why I said so, I was not very frequent in our meetings.
But before the meeting, tell us why you were really afraid for the first time. You have participated in very interesting operations in this country, and so why were you so afraid this time around?
Having knowledge about the rumors that were circulating, and taking cognizance of the position of government, any slight mistake from that panel
filindi wo filindi mbota o panelo la karola.
And if we had done otherwise,
wala ninga kolu kenya do nyama nu.
Well, I'm very much confident I would not have been here to testify before you today.
Abe koela mako bi ntete tarla jam pour kana sede aro.
Well, let's interrogate this issue, this statement. You said quite interesting things, 3 important things.
Kuma saba fola jami alon ko nyabo warata bake.
With your knowledge of the rumors and taking into account government position at the time, you are certain that if you had made mistakes, you wouldn't be here to testify. These are 3 important issues you said. And let's dissect them. What were the rumors?
First rumor, 8 Ghanaians were killed in suspected foul play by government.
Follow kibar follow min ko Ghana ngol mo say fata adun sobo ketako man sakundale tilimbali akeje.
Second.
No, let me come.
Second rumor.
That 8 corps, government denied them, or government has denied having any knowledge about.
Yes. That is position.
Number 2, Martin Kerry has spoken.
Martin Kerry diamuta.
And he said there were 56.
50 something, yes.
And I forgot to
and then the newspaper and other media out there were saying a lot about the disappearances of those people. You just cannot refute all those informations.
So you suspected, therefore, that the government disappeared these
that government knew
48 people.
Government knew about the remaining people.
And
if you were in my position, I'm now answering your 3rd question. Were you going to tell that fact-finding mission? No, Gambia government is complacent in this, they did this, they know this?
No,
and if you had done that,
just a moment. We've talked about the rumors. 2 significant ones.
Rumors and information from various media outlets.
Yes. Yes, and just to set the record straight about this, this is the statement by the Foreign Minister of Ghana, made on the 16th August 2005, barely 3 weeks after this incident. And he said that from these meetings and visits, the delegation was able to determine about 56 West Africans comprising about 42 Ghanaians, 10 Nigerians, 2 Senegalese, and a half Ghanaian Ivorian woman and a Togolese had been made to believe that their ship was in the high seas off the Gambian coast to transport them to Europe. So they began their journey in Bur and they were brought to Gambia. So the allegation by Ghana was 56 people came here.
And I think he did not only stop at that, I think he even paid a visit to the Gambia.
Yes, but this statement
I do not want to dispute this statement. I want to take cognizance of other information received from various other outlets.
And that is precisely the point. It was not only rumors, these were official accusations by the sister Republic of Ghana that at least 56 West Africans came into the hands of the Gambia government and 8 dead bodies were found. And Gambia government was disputing. So when you sat there at that meeting, you knew fully well that the government was in a cover-up operation.
Man sakunda membe nunjang ibe manya la kekanu me alon ko ibe manya maburi manya ibe wala kekanu akonyi kono.
True or false?
If the minister and the ministry responsible of internal security of this country,
ninga ya tara minister ani minister bulla memmarta yimbanko kan kunya la tankola
refuting on behalf of the Gambia government,
ibe balandin kumala Gambia man sakunda to
and today we have arrived at this conclusion.
adum bin natana lo nyin kuma kan lukunto ko
We will accept this was a gross manipulation
mbe sonna ko nyimmu filindir kuma
and a serious deception of facts.
andu ye nener balaka mo la
And I saw that to council.
But
the other point I am making is that the task force was set up principally to serve as an obstacle and not as a bona fide facilitator of investigation.
Unwittingly, council, that is the truth.
I would not say unwittingly, I would say deliberately.
For whatever reason, we just cannot be against that. You are very correct, sir.
Council in Karo Commander, Atella task force. Ya tell Londi le Prali Kebantam Biloti, Womulu Yatilu Lamenubina in Carola Jang. Sedo Koha, or Mukuleti Molem, Kusotolum. Yo, Walana Famunata Loakonin Kum Kuleti Mea Lonko. Ateso sono la barutumo feeling di role keta ko kono.
And when your task force repeated this crazy story that Gambian officers don't dress in bizarre manner, knowing fully well that that accusations referred to Bombardier, this was a deliberate lie by the task force repeated to reinforce or cement the government deception towards the Ghanaians.
Council, agreed.
Good.
You see, but council, just one moment. I want to ask you a question.
Well,
sorry, you are not supposed to be asked. I am suggesting. Candidly, if you were in that panel, and at that material point in time, having knowledge and suspicion that I am talking about, you sincerely say Bombardelem.
The thing is, fortunately, we have seen the example of Justice Hawa Ba.
I'll get to that. Hawa Ba pulled out not on her will. Deliberately, we were not calling her whenever we had meetings.
And why was that? Why was that?
You know,
why was that?
We saw her as a civilian.
No,
that's how we saw her.
You knew that she would not play party.
That was one thing. I agree with you. I was coming to that as well.
Exactly. So they kept only those people who they knew would toe the government line. They knew these people would play ball. They knew these people would cooperate. Isn't that the case?
Agreed.
And those...
Council, I want us not to labor more on this.
Let me just finish. They knew that the Director General of NIA would play ball. He would cooperate. They knew that Ebrima Drammeh would cooperate. They knew that Malamin Sise, he wrote the first false report, would cooperate. And they conveniently put out our Ba because they knew she is principled, she would not cooperate.
Agreed. Council, let me put a point across to you. You see, I want to be very sincere in whatever I do. Like I said earlier, I did not come here in order to dissuade the path of truth. I was made to understand One of the problems Benedict Drammeh had, trying to look into because this occurred at the time when he was, I think, the Inspector General of Police. I was made to understand he was acting like a prophet. Wanting to do the right thing. Wanting to go to the fact as it occurred or happened.
And then what happened?
But I think that was short-lived.
Or he was short-lived.
That effort was short-lived. I don't want to say but that effort was short-lived. I do not want to
What happened to Benedict in that job?
No, I think the investigation sort of ceased for some time.
And then?
Sometime later, I know Benedict was redeployed to the Ministry of Justice. Nearly either a month or so or less. I cannot know the exact time or date. He was made Director General NIA. Director General NIA. There also, within a very short span, either between 3 to 6 months, something like that. His service was either dismissed or terminated. But I know one important thing. A gentleman is a very principled person. And a straightforward guy.
I have no comment on that. May his soul rest in peace. But the fact of the matter is, that group was a group that the government knew would play ball.
I beg to reject that, sir. They did not know. We were made to play the game they wanted to.
But you see, that is neither here nor there. Government ensured that those who were there, they played ball. In fact, Mr. Witness, isn't it the case? What was your rank? You were essentially de facto number 3 at the NIA.
Director Internal Security and Operation, correct?
Director Internal Security and Operations.
What was the rank of Fali Jabang?
Lieutenant, I think.
Lieutenant Longamira.
Clearly, he had more say in that task force than any of you guys.
I would say yes. Due to the fact that, let me learn, I'll give you reasons.
Let me finish, Mr. Whitman.
I want to help you.
I know. I decide the way I think you can help me.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to get to the facts. All right? Why on earth would a lieutenant have more say in a task force than the CMC, Crime Management Coordinator of the country, than the Director of Internal Security and Operations of the National Intelligence Agency? Why?
I don't want to give you any hypothetical theory.
Just tell me the truth.
Taking cognizance that Fali Jabang was from the State Guard.
He will
not report to the Chief of Defense Staff at the time.
To who would he report?
I am sure his reports will go to the commanding officer of the State Guard Battalion, the State Guard, and then possibly the President. I am sure he is the eyes and ears there for the President. But I want to make a point.
But isn't that the reason why all of you would defer to him?
Of course, there was a serious phobia.
So in fact, sitting there, all of you realized that State House was present in every meeting.
Very correct.
And State House was deciding what was going on. The task force, correct?
I will not say that because there was not any one point in time that he said, "Iko alinga keteng." There again, it's like we always respect his views.
I have your statement here. I have your statement here. And you have pretty much put everything on Fali Jaban as the person who was directing the show. You agree?
No, I don't agree. He was not directing the show, sir.
Well, this is what you said in the statement. There were not any specific or individual roles assigned. Notwithstanding, we were told by the then Minister of Interior, Usman Sonko, that you know, okay. Our main roles was to coordinate, facilitate movements, etc. Furthermore, Fali Jabang was acquainted with the matter and that he would provide answers when necessary.
Why? He was in the previous task force. That was one advantage too. But number two was the one we discussed earlier on.
Okay, on that particular point, Malamin Sise, he was the head of the investigation panel, to which Fali Jabang was a member. In fact, Fali Jabang was not a member. But Malamin Sise was also a member of this task force. But clearly he did not have as much authority as Fali Jabang. What's the difference?
Well, I would say they all do not have that authority.
What was the difference? What made Fali Jabang to have more authority than Malami?
Council, you see Jabang? He's a very steady officer.
Just answer the question. Why did he have more authority? Isn't it because he came from State House and represented State House?
Probably he had other proud knowledge than any of us there. Because the accusations were not centered that the police officer did that or the NI officer did that. They were saying the soldiers did that. So he came from that discipline.
No, the moment mafununko NIA nyinke wala police ole nyinke.
And above all the State House.
NIA and that about NIA and work be kan State House fanankafo.
So it was obvious to you at the time, therefore,
that
the soldiers were accused of having carried out these killings.
That were the allegations.
And of course, the commander-in-chief of the soldiers was the president.
That's correct.
And of course, if the president is not encouraging an investigations of crimes committed by the soldiers, he must have had an interest in covering that up.
I am not trying to back the president. I don't want to speak for him as well.
Mr. Witness, just answer the question. Don't hide behind, I don't want to speak for the president. This is just an obvious fact.
The truth of the issue is...
You were told not to investigate.
We were not, no, that's what the instructions were, not to investigate.
Exactly.
Yes. So, we were not investigating.
So if the president's, if a group whose ultimate commander was the president was being accused of having committed a crime, and the president does not want an investigation to be carried out, wouldn't it evoke suspicions in your mind?
Of course I will. I will, of course. Of course I will.
And wasn't the presence of a member of the state guard?
That was a ringing bell.
Those were your words, and what tune were they ringing?
Why should I say otherwise?
Wasn't it suggesting to you that toe the line or dead you would be?
Well, I would accept what you said. Trust me, within me, even if you had closed me into a barrel, I would not say otherwise. No.
So all of you knew that you had to help do the cover-up as you were being asked, directly or indirectly, to do.
We were never told that they were complicit in it. They said, those facts presented is what we go by.
But
directly or not only did the task force provide false answers, it also organized the doctoring of diaries to be falsely presented to the investigator.
I know one thing. The diary was presented to the task force. The diary was brought in by two people. I remember that was a weekend. That weekend it was brought in by Java and Numo, which was given to the task force. And that was the diary that was given to the fact-finding mission. Personally, I did not bother to look into the diary.
Were you helping the investigations, or was that part of the deliberate effort to mislead?
On
the side of the Gambia government, we were helping those fact-finding people whatever they need. Knowing obviously that, having got knowledge of all that was circulating around, we stick to what we were asked to do.
Which was to reinforce the lie that was already provided.
Directly or indirectly.
Could you answer now?
We will only...
Could you answer the question now?
as things has just revealed, we were just lying.
Yes,
all that was being said at the time was as what has been revealed today at this commission.
You see, all that is the problem that I have. The issue is that in hindsight, you were lying. That's not the issue. The issue is we knew, all of you knew, that you were wallowing in deliberate falsehood.
Council, I agree with you, but at that time, are we just going to tell these people that no, Gambia government is lying, they killed? When there was no investigation authenticating that people have been killed. No document available or witnesses available to us that people have been killed.
I am sure that Gambia government did not need to do that. Gambia government had Bombardier dancing around in State House, exuding a lot of bravado, knowing fully well that he and others carried out the execution. Gambia government did not need to do that. Okay? But the point I am making is, the task force was created and tasked to deliberately mislead. They may have taken a facilitation posture, but their ultimate objective was to cover up and lie. Is that true?
I will not accept that. Say why?
Okay, perhaps maybe we would take the break now, and then we will come back.
Can I just land on this one?
No, think about your answer.
No problem, sir.
Thank you very much.
But maybe also that at the beginning, the task force was probably not aware of, or fully aware of, the objective of the job that they were given to undertake. But eventually, they all became willing tools of a massive cover-up scheme. When we come back, if you can address that, that would be very helpful indeed. Okay. It's a follow-up to what Council had just said.
Thank you, sir.
We will come back at 12:45. Meeting is adjourned.